Okay. So I think if I missed something, take it with you. Oh, I'm going to bring you the cheat sheet.
Oh yeah, thanks. Oh, great. Thank you. All right, it's time. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the extra session at IETF 106. Let me just pull up the Jabber room. And let's get started. Everyone, of course, knows the note well. Got a few more people than we did for the last session. We've all seen this before. It basically says, behave well. Blue sheets are on their way around. And there are some IPR considerations, so no submarining us with information later. This is the rough agenda that I've put together. Does anyone have anything they want to add or revise on this before we get started? I don't see anyone jumping up, so let's dive straight into Fetch Preview. The big area of discussion here is about the extension mechanism, whether anyone's actually going to use the extension mechanism that's there, and the options are roughly either keep what's there, it works, or remove the extensibility now, and we can always add an e-preview with more complexity if we need that later. I think, who was Barry? You're the one with the discuss on this, so.
Yeah. So my contention on this is that the client can't possibly have any idea what the best way to get a preview of a document that lives on the server. The only possible place that knowledge could exist, if it does at all, is on the server side. And I think having the client say, use this algorithm to do your preview is pointless. I would rather just have the client say, give me a preview, and have the server figure out the best way to do that. And I think that's what makes sense. And it simplifies the protocol and it simplifies the implementation. And then the server can know whether it's a text or a video or an audio part or a JPEG or whatever it is, and do what it needs to do to make some sense out of it. Does anyone think that's not the right answer other than Michael? Michael and I have been going back and forth on that. So Michael can give you now his view on the same thing, and then we can discuss it. Go ahead, Michael.
Can you guys see me?
Yep.
All right. Yeah, that is true. Barry and I think, do not look at this the same way. I will say that everybody internally feels the same way that I do, where we don't see how, if you're looking at this from a client-author perspective, a client-author has certain ways that they can show information to the user. It's the client's job is to make that user interface determination. All of a sudden, it starts getting information from a server, or that it has no idea how to handle. This is completely worthless. This is not something that we would ever implement. This adds a whole ton of complexity, we feel, because all we're saying here is, this is a simple, I'm a client. Here is what I want. I want in this particular case, the one that we've, the one extension that we've defined is a text preview. Because as a client, that's the one thing I can do. I do have, since we've last talked, I've actually talked with several customers who keep asking me about image previews, but they also want to stress to me personally that they don't want that. They want the option to have both a text preview and an image preview, and those are separate. That should not be part of the same sort of preview, because they want to be able to choose as a client. So that's my 1 minute pitch think it's back to Barry probably.
That's more information than I had before. I think I misunderstand maybe your use case. The use case that I see for this is I'm looking at my messages in my inbox and I see a list with subject and whatever, and you have a preview by them, like Gmail does for me. It gives me the first couple of lines of the message. If that's your use case, then what I'm saying is the only thing that makes sense to me. But if you have a different use case from that, then maybe maybe I can see why we're looking at it differently. Alexei has just stepped in.
Yeah, Alexei, clarifying question. So when you say image preview, what do you mean by that? Do you mean image transcribed into text, or do you mean a simplified image?
No, I mean like an idea taking a full-size image and making it to some smaller representation. That sort of preview.
Okay.
Don't think that's what's in the document now.
No, well, what's in the document? No, that's not. There is no image preview in the document now. We're just looking at that as a future use case for it. Go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, I think this is Neil Jenkins. Well, I have two questions. So firstly, you said you got customers asking you for these image previews. Great. So we've got a use case. What are those customers? What do they want to do with it? And then secondly, from the sound of it, what you actually want with this is for the client to tell the server, I'm prepared to accept previews of type text/plain and possibly being able to put image/png or whatever MIME types they want to accept. Almost all mail clients will just be text/plain, but maybe some other things do something else. And then the server will return whichever one of those it has available, probably even in preference order the client gives it.
Yeah, I think, oh, go ahead, Alexei.
Yeah, I basically was saying it looks like you want different media types.
Yeah, I mean, it almost,
Right.
I'd almost go like
is the side effect of media type selection, right? As opposed to.
Yeah. It almost sounds like HTTP accept sort of header. That's, I think, the second part of Neil's.
That would make me happier.
Yeah. The first part of, let me answer your first part first, Neil. There's actually two different use cases that have come up. One is, in general, we have some customers that want to have like a portal, they have their own portal and they want to show 3 messages. And they don't want to show text for messages necessarily to have like a photograph. Like they'd rather show a photograph potentially. This isn't a, they don't have a defined use case, but it's definitely one of the ideas that they have, because that's a more interesting thing for a customer to look at when they're looking at a portal, rather than, grandma sends you a photograph rather than, some sort of text. Another option is part of the chat work that we're doing. Some of these chat messages will come already embedded with because the chat message itself is encrypted. But I guess this is the way that WhatsApp does it, is they take the image and they send a very, very, very blurred representation of that image. And that's the thing that, as a preview, because that's what you're going to preview to the user, and then the user is going to click on that image and it actually will load the full image. So those are two potential use cases in the future.
And there's that last one is a perfect example of where I think the current mechanism of specifying algorithms doesn't work, because there's the case where all you have is a JPEG, and maybe it's this enormous JPEG and you want the server to transcode it into some small JPEG to send as a preview. The other is where you have an encrypted JPEG along with an unencrypted blurred version of it, and you want the server to return the unencrypted blurred version. From the client's point of view, in both cases, it's gotten an image preview. But there are two different algorithms for doing that. And so that's what I'm getting at, that the client doesn't know what the best way to get an image preview is. What Alexei was saying makes more sense to me, that if you say, I want text previews and image previews, and then let the server figure out how to do that. So the media type makes more sense than a preview algorithm. There was something else that I wanted to say about what do you want to happen? Okay, there are 3 possibilities of an image, text with an image. So you say you get an email message that's multi-part mixed and has text and image. One of them is that the text says, it's a whole travel log. It's here's where I went on my vacation, and the image is your favorite image from the vacation. So in that case, a preview of the message might be a bit of the text and a transcoded version of the image together. Another is that the text is this travel log and the image is a smiley face. And in that case, the preview you want is just a snapshot, something in the text, and the image is irrelevant. And another is where you say, check this out. And then there's a big picture that's the gist of it. And the preview you want there is just the picture. You don't want the crap in the text. And I don't know how a client would convey what it wants there in any reasonable sense. The server can use heuristics to figure out whether there's intelligence in the text or not, whether the image is worth sending and that kind of stuff. So I'm happier if we go with the client telling the server what media types it wants, and let the server figure out how to do that. That makes sense to me.
Neil Jenkins again. I was thinking exactly the same thing. The other thing that leads you to is you want multiple previews returned, text and an image, if there are both and they're useful. Just off the top of my head, I would probably go with no, actually, I don't know. There's various different ways you could request that, and it's a bit complicated, and trying to make it not too complicated overall is worthwhile.
Yeah, I would just go, if we're gonna do that,
Yeah.
I would just go with the simplest thing where the client says these media types are ones that I accept, and the server, it's up to the server whether it returns all of them or some of them or whatever. Anything else gets more complicated, and Michael's already saying that he doesn't want to complicate this anymore, and neither do I. So
it's Pete Resnick. So I get how the media type idea works. That makes sense to me. What did you have in mind, Michael, other than fuzzy? What are the other kinds of choices? Or is that the only one?
Well, again, in the future, we may have use cases for the image, for say image. But again, like the question becomes, as a server implementer, should it be any image type or whatever, or should it be limited to JPEG, PNG, something like that? I mean, how do we begin to narrow that down?
It sounds like you're converging on a media type accept list.
yes.
I mean that makes the most sense, because then I can say as a client, I'll take any of these things. You as a server can say, here's what I got that works. And whether that's a fuzzy image, whether that's a shortened text, whatever it is, at least now I've said these are the kinds of things I can handle. And if the issue is one of the complexity of the preview, maybe I could give some sort of size parameter as a request. But yeah, I don't really get beyond here's the things I can accept and here's the size, what the other choices are.
Yeah, I remember that. Alexei just showed me a picture of the draft of the convert, the RC rather, of the convert extension. Yeah. With what Pete said, you could say I accept image / JPEG if that's all you want, or you could say I accept image / star and let the server send whatever kind of image.
That's dangerous.
That is dangerous, but it's possible.
Here's my big concern though: what's nice now is fuzzy has a very defined return value, right? It's a text. It's this many characters. It's in this character set, right? So we have. And what's nice about this, and what's very important about this, at least with my server hat on, we cannot be creating multiple previews for different clients. If a client sends, I want a JPEG of 10 kilobytes, and somebody sends a JPEG of 20 kilobytes, that's not going to work. It might.
Okay. I suggest you look at RFC 5259.
We've looked at convert. It doesn't fit the use case that we need. If that's convert.
I think that's exactly what you're sort of asking about. If you go beyond media type, then it becomes very much like convert. And I know it's overcomplicated. People didn't do it.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, getting back to the original problem we were trying to solve was every client, not every client, that's too broad of a statement, but almost every client these days has some sort of preview, textual preview, right? And that was really what we, that was the initial impetus for this. And then we added the extension mechanism because we did have these potential ideas in the future, and we didn't want to have to come back 6 months from now and say, guess what, we just did a preview and now we need another whole preview. So it's trying to balance these two worlds, because I agree that the text preview is the most important part, because that's the thing that people use right now.
Hi, this is Neil again. Just briefly, I think the consensus in the room is that yes, the algorithm is not the right approach for this. It should be accept media type. And the current spec, which before we add extensions, is just if you send text plain, you'll get back a preview. There's no more control from the client. They can't say how long it is or anything else, or how fuzzy or how you do it or whatever. Just give me a text plain preview, and the server goes, here's a text plain preview. Because I suspect almost everywhere it's going to be implemented, like certainly at Fastmail, we pre-cache these. You're not going to get something different based on what you ask. There's only one thing we're going to return you. Gmail's the same. Like, there's just no point in adding more complexity than that.
This is Pete. Given Michael's vertical up and down with his head, I'm not sure there's anything else to say. Are you okay with the idea that this gets redefined as media type, but really the only media type that is ever going to be used in this first go round is text plain? And that is equivalent to what is currently in the document as fuzzy.
Yeah, so in other words, we're just going to take the semantics of text of fuzzy will remain the same. It will just be labeled as, well, not even labeled.
Text plain media type. Right. I mean, what this changes things to is that the extension mechanism is no longer an algorithm. The extension mechanism is a media type. And the first go round of definition of the document should be the only thing you can do is text plain, and the server will give you a short one. Yeah. And because that's what fuzzy meant anyway, right? Yeah. Is that going to be okay with you, as if in the future we need to do something, it's going to have to be on the level of media type and not some algorithm? Is that going to work for your implementation?
I mean, I'm trying to think. The only thing I would be a bit worried about is if we have, like, if the name of this algorithm now, or the name of the return type is text plain, that text plain does have some semantics behind it, right? It's not just any text plain of any length. I mean, we still have to have those limits. I will fight for that one. I think we have to have those limitations.
I think it must be returned in UTF-8 and must be a maximum 256 characters or whatever we have in. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
Bronny, I want to just barge in with a couple of questions if I can. I've been waiting while you three cycle through. One of which is, should we define a new text/something type for this rather than just text/plain, so that if we want to then do longer text things or something later?
I don't know that we need that. We have things, you can have text HTML, you can have text markup, you can have various the things with pluses on them to give text, banana plus JSON. I mean, there's a lot of options. And if we just set it up so that it can be extended with different media types, then it makes it easy. And you can even put something in the document that says, in the future, we may extend this with non-text media types, if you just want to, alert people that it might eventually happen.
Yeah. My other question was discovery. The current draft has a preview equals fuzzy in the capabilities. So if you added additional preview types, you'd discover them through there. How do we discover what the server supports?
We actually changed that, I think. So yeah. No.
I remember Barry and I can't remember I think we did. Barry, you wanted me to label every single, at the time, the algorithms, I thought.
Well, no, I think what we did, I'm trying to remember the exact details. I think what we did is we registered preview equals.
Yep.
And then the document says preview equals fuzzy is the algorithm. That's how it was.
Yeah. So I guess the question here is, what would we put in the capabilities, given that you can't put slashes in them? I don't think.
Well, Pete.
It's Pete. So do we actually envision a time where the server really wants to explain to the client what previews it has, or is this really eventually going to be the client's going to express that it can support more than one preview, and the server is going to give what it is, in which case the capability is preview.
Do we want to waste a round trip though? Like, I only want an image preview. The server will never return an image preview if we have some sort of capability that hint. You know, then I'm not wasting my time.
Yeah, I don't know that that's, I understand. Yeah, clients are happy to be chatty at all times, says Pete. I suspect that you would really never encounter a client that doesn't want a text preview. It may want other things as well, but I really doubt the use case that they wouldn't want a text preview. So the client would just say, I'll accept text and I'll accept JPEG. And if it only gets JPEG, that's fine. And if it only gets text, that's fine. Or if it gets both, that's also fine. So yeah, I'm happy to just advertise preview. And then we say the media types that are supported now are text / whatever. And if we just want to say text plain, that's fine. If you want to add text, any kind of text, I'm okay with that. And then say something about future extensions might support non-text media types. And then I think that makes everybody happy, or at least everyone can live with it, I hope.
Yeah, well, this is, I probably need to do it another ISG review of this because this is a major change to the document. I mean, not conceptually, but it will change the syntax, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's because it's something both the client and the server need to parse and send.
So at minimum, you need to update all examples and ABNF.
Yeah.
I think this needs to go back to working group last call, IETF last call, IESG evaluation again. We can make it quick. I hope we can get this done quickly at this point. So are we railroading you, Michael, or are you?
No, I think so. What I'm hearing is the actual behavior. Everybody agrees with the current behavior. We're just going to change. We're going to get rid of the concept of algorithms and couch everything in terms of media types.
Yep.
And then obviously we need to change the syntax for that. We're not changing anything in the capabilities, is what I was hearing.
Well, the capabilities now would just say preview.
Just
No,
preview.
no equal sign. No, nothing.
Take it out a bunch of stuff.
Right. So I think it simplifies things a little bit. Yeah.
Simplifies the service.
Marginally.
Yeah. Okay. We're good. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm sorry it took so long to get to this point, but I think it was very productive discussion, actually.
Yeah, no, I
Because-
appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
I'm going to go stop talking now.
Thanks, Michael. Yes, we have used up the time we had available for this. So let us move on to IMAP 4 Rev 2. And switch slides.
While you're getting ready, I realized I haven't done anything about quota. It's on your agenda, so
It
probably.
is. Okay, well, I mean, we don't need to do anything with it if there's nothing to say. But we'll
Okay,
skip over
fine.
it when we get there. Let's do this one. Clicker is here.
So we didn't have meeting in Montreal. We had it in Prague. There were 3 revisions since. I think most of the changes on the to-do list are done now, but there are a few open issues we'll talk about quickly. Biggest changes, there were some good questions from Timo, long list, which is mostly addressed now. Things like permanent flags, clarification, and clarifying that modified IETF7 is only used for IMAP4 compatibility are done now. The other biggest changes are removing LSAP command and adding extended list. check command got removed. Digest MD5 was replaced with Scrum SHA-1, Scrum SHA-256. One of the cheapest comment was about deprecating fetch RFC822, RFC822 text and header. It was very clear at the time what it meant, but now as I started looking at this, I wasn't entirely sure what it meant. So what currently is document is saying is they are accepted but shouldn't be used by the client, and they will be taken out as opposed to just being removed.
Yep.
If people feel strongly that they should be just taken out, very happy to do this change, but
I guess if you're enabling IMAP4 Rev 2, you know what you're doing enough to take them out.
so would people rather take them out?
I'm happy to take them out. But
Yeah, I strongly encourage that we take them out. A server that wants to support IMAP4 Rev 2 and IMAP4 Rev 1 will support them.
Well,
One that only supports IMAP4 Rev 2 doesn't need to put it in, and clients won't use it if they're talking Rev 2. So yeah.
fine. It just, yeah, in a way it would be simpler in the document that some things are deprecated by being taken out, and this one is sort of like half deprecated. So for consistency, it would
Yeah.
be better to take it out.
Take it out. And I don't mind if we have a section in the document that just lists things that have been taken out.
Yeah, there is already section of changes since, and it mentions everything taken out. So I think that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
Fine. Okay, so we have action item to take this out.
yep.
I think there are like one remaining comment from Arndt about search new. I think we had a discussion with Braun and Arndt about the best behavior. I think suggestion is keep search new, but just make it return nothing.
Yes.
It's probably the safest thing. So if clients ask for it, it's sort of backward compatible. Well, in a sense of there are no recent messages anymore, so nothing is ever new, so
Right.
it's empty.
Right.
I guess the question here is if we're deprecating things by removing them entirely, then once you've enabled IMAP4 Rev 2, you're not going to send a search new.
Right.
So we could just return bad.
Well, and that gets to the interesting part of,
Yeah.
for the most part, well, my philosophy was to try to make it as easy for the client to do, as in client that already do various extensions or just implement IMAP4 Rev 1, they pretty much wouldn't require any changes. Taking out, well, I suppose if we're taking out RFC822, RFC822 text, we might as well take out new, but
I think if we're going this way, I think we should just not deprecate anything. Just anything that we don't want to support anymore, we take it out. And somebody says that they talk IMAP4 Rev 2, they talk IMAP4 Rev 2. They don't send us stuff that's not part of it. The backward compatibility is the server supports both.
yes.
So, and for a long time, any
We
server
haven't
that
done any
implements-
change which is incompatible.
Yeah.
I think.
Right, we should avoid changes where the same thing works differently,
Right.
because then we will break compatibility. But we ought to make it easy for a server to support both, and then that's the transition. And at some point, maybe the servers don't support Rev 1 anymore, but I think that probably will never happen.
Fine. Okay. So I think the suggestion is to take out search new as well.
Yeah.
If
That's-
we
And that answers, I was going to go back to the removed L sub added extended list line and say that if you're reviewing this, realize that the addition of extended list isn't finished yet. I did that, but there's more I need to do with it. And part of it is getting rid of the floppy text in there that we used to have.
I would say it's conceptually finished,
It's
but the
yeah,
text is not final, and
Right. The
people
text
should
needs
pay
cleanup.
more attention to the sections because it's the biggest change in the document.
Yes, the text needs cleanup, and the cleanup that it needs is that there's a lot of stuff in the text that was if you're using non-extended list, here's what you got to do. And if you're using extended list, here's what you got to do. And I've got to clean that text up and
I
make
think,
it.
yeah, we'll
better.
talk about this and
Right.
we'll come up with a proposal. I might be
Yes.
disagreeing with you on some of this, but
Yes,
Don't-
Alexei and I are going to talk about this, and
Later
we
this
even have a time to do it, except I don't remember when it is.
Friday morning.
Friday
First thing.
morning, so. Yeah, so we'll post another revision after we've sorted that out and I've made the changes. So.
Cool. It's nice to review my own slides from the previous time.
Yeah.
I discovered that I forgot to do something, to the document. There are a few things, explaining body structure more, I think that's a useful thing to do. This is just because there aren't enough examples and it's at least for me, it's a constant side of errors.
Yep.
I coded both server side and client side. Every time I do a change on the client side, I don't actually remember how it works. So I test against the live server to see what the exact behavior is. So this really needs more examples. Another change that Chris Newman requested, and actually it does match my implementation. Extended list allows multiple match pattern, which I thought was a very cute idea at the time. I don't think anybody implemented it because, well, the problem with list is requirements on list is the server doesn't return information for the same mailbox twice or more than once, where multiple patterns would require keeping all the lists and aggregating them before emitting, as opposed to just emitting the list as you go through the mailbox. So I think this is relatively straightforward. It's a backward compatible change, as in if you implement list extended extension proper, you will support multiple pattern, but this will be just trivial case of it.
Subset.
In parents, just a single match thing. The next one, which I forgot about, I think status and list seems to be quite a favorite for people.
Yeah,
so-
list return status is nice.
Yes, so let's include this. Binary fetch, I think we agreed that we only want the fetch size of this and only allowed to do this for the leaf body parts. I need to do my homework. I think the message global might be a special case because it changed how content transfer encoding is working because of recursive nature. I think there might be a slight problem there for this, for EAI, so might need clarification or decision whether it's a special case or we don't care. Chris Newman requested search to be intelligent, and I think Timo as well, basically not necessarily substring matching, but more of a index type matching. I think this is fine, except if we're doing a search for header fields values, I think having substring matching is actually preferred. So I would like to discuss this a bit more on the mailing list in a sense of if we are doing full body search, it's fine to do indexing and matching of similar looking words or words from different roots in language, that's fine. But if, example, if I'm searching for multi-part report content type value, I don't want to match it multi-part reporting. I want it to match multi-part report. So I want substring search as opposed to fuzzy search. So I'll send a message on this to the mailing list. Hopefully people will agree and we can.
Yeah, how much can we get just by mandating the fuzzy extension and recommending clients use it?
Well, I think the use cases is if you are having human user who is searching for some text, it's a quality of implementation issue. If you have an automated email client that tries to do automatic processing, like find all the messages with this structure, with this header field containing this value, for them, it's better to stick to substring searches.
Yeah, but if the protocol says must support fuzzy as a match parameter, then clients that want intelligent matching just put fuzzy, it's just say search fuzzy expression, and clients that don't want it don't say search fuzzy, and then you have access to both behaviors. No, well, the server can just say go away if it doesn't want to, and then you advise users to.
The way it is now, many servers rather can't implement non-fuzzy, and they just implement non-fuzzy as fuzzy. But yeah, many of them do. Lotus Notes did that,
And for our implementation is going to be the opposite, actually. We cannot do fuzzy, but as long as I can return something sensible, I'll be okay with that.
So the question is, if you don't say fuzzy, if the client doesn't say fuzzy, can the server do fuzzy anyway now? Or do we say there's non-fuzzy and there's fuzzy, and, and you have to say no if you can't support the one that's
I think
asked?
my answer is depending on search key. For some search keys, you have to do non-fuzzy, and for others, it doesn't matter.
I would certainly say that there are, as Barry was saying, that many existing servers that already just do fuzzy, even if you don't ask for it, and that doesn't seem to break too much stuff.
So I'm saying if you say search subject banana, and your server only supports fuzzy, does it return a fuzzy search on banana in the subject? Or does it say no? That's I don't know.
Neil, just briefly, if it had to say no, that would mean that existing servers like the Gmail one would have to change their behavior depending on whether they were opting into Rev 2 or not, which I think is a bad thing. So I think it should not have to say no.
Completely agree. You answered the question.
Okay. This is Bron with an alternative suggestion, which is that we add an extended response in the node that says needs fuzzy.
It's still changing behavior.
It is still changing behavior once you opt into Rev 2, but if you create a client that's opting into Rev 2, it should
That's
put
not the
fuzzy
point.
on the search.
The point is that the server should not have to change. The server should be able to support Rev 1 and Rev 2 together without having a lot of changes in between, without having to know the difference. So what he's saying is that if your server today on Rev 1 just does a fuzzy search when you ask for non-fuzzy, we don't want to have to change that. We don't want it to have different behavior depending on which the client is talking.
Again, I think it sort of depends what you're searching for. Do you do fuzzy search on addresses?
I think we say that
It depends on keys you're
it
searching.
behaves the same as it does now, but fuzzy is required, implementation of fuzzy is required on the server, and clients that want fuzzy searches should use fuzzy explicitly.
Although Alexei saying they can't support fuzzy, was that right? Or,
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, I
And
think
in some cases, client needs to, as I say, for header field searches specifically, you don't want fuzzy sometimes.
There's no such thing as can't support fuzzy. You just fuzzy is undefined.
Okay, so,
fuzzy
sure.
fuzzy is
You
you
can
return
say-
whatever the hell
that's
you
true.
feel like.
But I guess
that could be exact match.
Yeah, I think the important thing was, my understanding was one of the goals is that the same request should not get a different response based on whether you're doing Rev 1 or Rev 2. Is that right?
Agreed.
Yes, and given, although it's not allowed in the current spec, a lot of servers are doing a fuzzy search, even if you don't ask for it. They would have to change behavior if you said that should be rejected in Rev 2. So I think it's better to change the spec to say that's actually allowed, because that's what people are doing.
So here's a recommendation.
That's an interesting option.
So we say we have fuzzy, we have something, non-fuzzy is not the word I want to use, but we have something that conveys non-fuzzy, and we have nothing. Nothing does whatever it does today, however you do it, And then you can explicitly say, I want fuzzy or I don't want fuzzy.
So substring or
Yeah,
something as
substring,
a,
exactly.
as a
Substring.
keyword.
Yes.
Is that what Pete suggested as well?
Yes, that's exactly what Pete
Yeah.
suggested, which is actually a really great suggestion. You can explicitly ask for substring, and then the server can say, no, I'm not doing that for a body search over this. I would time out after 30 seconds anyway.
Alexei, does that make you happy? And then that way, if you can't do fuzzy,
I'm
then
sure.
when a user,
This search is still in progress. I'm unsure.
right.
I
If you
think
can't do fuzzy, when a client says fuzzy, you can say no. If Lotus Notes can't do substring, then they say no when you ask for substring. But when you don't ask for anything, it does whatever it does. I'm good with
Okay,
that.
I think I need to see an example. Well,
We'll
three
talk
examples,
We'll
yeah.
talk on Friday.
okay. So yeah, it doesn't seem like my original proposal where whether you do fuzzy or not will depends on the search key.
Michael on Jabber says search results can be different in the same server depending on the backend search technology being used for the specific account / mailbox.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah. And what you're saying is the way it works today. If I do a date search, it's not going to be fuzzy. And let's say I do a date search on Lotus Notes. It's not going to be fuzzy for a date search. It will be fuzzy for a text search.
Yes,
In
but
some,
if you do, okay,
in some
header, message ID, foo, is it going to be fuzzy?
No.
Well, it better not be fuzzy
It's- no,
because
it's not.
this is going to be horrible.
no, so
And that's exactly the behavior I want to preserve.
sure, and
Well,
that
subject, I don't, well,
So that behavior is preserved by not saying anything. You don't say fuzzy, you don't say substring. Message IDs behave a certain way.
yes,
Dates
but I
behave a
want,
certain way. Subject and body behave a certain way. And
well,
that's going to be server dependent. But I can't imagine any server that does a fuzzy search on message ID.
well,
by
in this
default.
case, I would rather say that header field searches have to be,
Not subject.
well, subject might be a special case. Subject, I sort of don't care because that's not the one. Although, if I'm searching for a prefix, that sort of would have been nice to automate.
This is Pete. I just want to say the client end of this. Whatever you server knuckleheads think, this fuzzy stuff pisses clients off because they sometimes want to do whatever kind of search they want to do and want exact string matches for some headers. And so if you want to leave the behavior of IMAP Rev 1 alone and let it do whatever the server decides, give a way for the client in Rev 2 to say, stop it, I want exact match.
That's what I was proposing.
And so what you're talking about with whether it's header or not is Rev 1 behavior. That's Rev 1 or not.
No.
It's at the moment it's undefined.
We're now saying there will be three things in Rev 2.
Okay.
Search substring, and search fuzzy.
And search is Rev 1 behavior,
Search is Rev 1 behavior,
which is
Undefined.
whatever the server
which is whatever the server does with that search.
Right.
Now, there certainly can be a recommendation in there that that search for any header fields that are not free-form text better not be fuzzy by default.
As well as header field you don't recognize, just do it. Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's the sort of thing I would like to do.
You're
Yes.
happy to say that, but that should just be at a non-normative recommendation level, that kind of thing.
Wow.
And if you want a non-normative recommendation level on the client side, say clients should always specify whether they want substring or fuzzy because the other behavior is undefined. The server decides.
Well, and for the most part, that's okay. Most searches that are, at least searches that are generated by the end user, they work the way they work. The user gets what the user gets, and they've always, sometimes the user gets annoyed. I get annoyed right now from Outlook because it does not filter my messages the way I want them to, and I don't know why, but there it is. But, you know.
Yeah, I mean, this is Neil again. The other advice, though, to give to clients is if you start asking explicitly for substring body or things like that, the server is probably going to say no or may well because it's
Sure.
just too expensive.
Yeah. No, as I said, Lotus Notes has an index of the message, and there's no way in its index to distinguish surf from surfed, from surfing, and from surfer. It can't do it. So,
Surface.
well, that, dude, what are cognates?
All right.
Anyway, so where we are, just to recap, where we are is
So I think we'll do recommendations for servers on a header field search.
Yep.
Informative, but
Yep.
encouraging. And then we might add substring and fuzzy as options, but I think this is subject to actually hashing it out and seeing examples.
well, I think we put it in. We can say that servers may return no if they don't support one or the other.
Well,
This is slightly more experimental than I would like.
Yeah.
But let's see the text, and maybe if we can agree on it, we'll agree on it.
the thing, my understanding is in Rev 1, it is explicitly substring searching for everything, except that's just ignored. And so
Yes.
we're changing the text, but just to match reality.
Yes, actually, it is true. Yes.
But also specifying a way to say, no, really give me what Rev 1 said, or tell me no.
Right, but they have to be able to say no, because if you go to a Lotus Notes server and say search substring on the body, it's going to say no, or it's going to lie, one or the other.
Yeah.
So I think we need it to be able to say no. We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
So you probably don't need to take my suggestion of search regex. Yes.
Right. This this is the slide which I presented last time, and unfortunately, I don't remember answer to 8 of these questions. So one question was whether we want to fold in search res, which is basically allow you to pipeline several commands by saying, search for this, do this with the results, like copy, move the.
I took comprehensive minutes. I'm finding them now.
I vaguely remember, I think people were more supportive for this, but I'm not entirely sure.
Maybe I didn't take comprehensive notes on that bit. Search res include. Yes, there it is.
So
We said include last time.
so people happy to include this?
Yes.
Last chance. Okay, we'll do that. And the second part is status deleted, which is number of messages with deleted flag. The use case for this is quarter type thing. If your mailbox is getting close to quarter, if you expunge it, this is how much you can regain. I think it might be useful, but how do people think about this one?
I'm happy with it as a server implementer. It's not hard to add. Okay. We would add a field to the status cache. It's simple.
Right. I can't imagine wanting to use it, but it's so easy to implement that I don't care.
Okay. Right. Okay. In this case, let's do conditionally included, and if people really object to it, we can take it out. It's a small work anyway. Right. This is the plan. Depends on editors doing lots of work, obviously, but we'll do editing session with Barry this week. We'll add the remaining few bits, like status list is probably the biggest change. Some search related changes as discussed. I'll go over, and Barry, over comments from Timo and Arndt, make sure that they're all addressed. Some of them, I think, most of them were accepted, some of them were rejected. In some cases, it's probably just replying to Jim and saying, no, we decided not to do this because, so just to get it done. And I would really like to do working group last call before Christmas.
All right.
So if things go well, then we can ask Adam, our third co-AD, to sponsor it because both Barry and myself are implicated.
Yep.
And hopefully he can do it in the last 2.5 months on ISG.
All right. I hesitate to raise it, but I would love to see Object ID go in. I know we've gone backwards and forwards on this a few times. I had an interesting chat with the Gmail API team recently in which they're keen to do it. So if it seems most servers have some kind of unique IDs for objects internally, for mailboxes and for messages, if we can have a way to expose that in a standard manner, then we do have a, yeah, but if we have it as part of this standard, I mean,
this is the only thing that my server doesn't do, but I actually don't object.
Yeah.
If you want to make this argument, do it quickly.
All right. The argument in favor of Object ID is it gives you a lot of caching ability that you don't have otherwise. So
yeah, it makes it much easier to track across multiple renames and moves between different mailboxes.
Yeah. The argument against is that it is a requirement on the server that it doesn't currently have, and hence makes it more work to support IMAP4 Rev 2 in a server that doesn't already have it. Will it discourage adoption of IMAP4 Rev 2, or will it encourage adoption of Object ID? That's the trade-off question there.
I would say if people like Chris Newman and Timo say that they're happy with inclusion, that probably, yes, it's slightly higher bar, but it's to other implementations, not in the room. That might be good enough.
All right, I will email and ask them about that. Yeah, what would it be for you, Alexi, since your server obviously is one that doesn't support it at the moment? Do you have a space to store UUIDs, or how would you go about it?
Don't know. I need to design something.
Yeah.
Ours is cache plus file system based stuff, as in we use file names for storing various information. So
yeah. So short of embedding inodes or something in there, it becomes tricky to track. I mean, you can do a poor man's mailbox ID just by using the hash of the mailbox name and the UID validity. And then it changes when you rename it, so you don't actually detect that it's the same mailbox. But
well, that's the thing. If that would make it much easier, then I can basically implement it for free.
And you do the poor man's email ID by hashing the mailbox UID validity and UID. And again, you lose all the benefits, but you still have a thing.
Yeah, you do need this third game as well.
Mm.
Okay, well, Bron, you're going to send a message to the mailing list as well about, and do mention as a second part of possible hack to do it, which is protocol compliant but doesn't give full benefit. I think that might be good enough.
Cool. All right. Our next topic was quota,
which I completely forgot about.
My first question was, has anybody read the draft? Yeah, that's roughly what I did as well. Glanced at it. Do we need to do an additional quota type for annotation storage separate from mail storage, or should you just combine all that into storage if you're?
I don't mind. If you have a compelling use case.
And we are accounting it separately in our server at the moment, but there's no particular reason to do one way or the other.
Yeah, basically the problem with the original spec, it was underspecified. It was making certain things. It made everything an example.
Yeah.
Where now we are creating a registry of these. I think there are like 2 or 3 things which are more likely to be implemented. As long as, it's easy to add to the registry, I don't mind.
I mean, the other thing that would be lovely to do is switch to 63-bit types and get rid of the storage being in 1024 octet counts and just store raw octets. But
Why does it matter?
Just
You can divide and round up.
Yeah,
That's not a big deal, is it?
that's not particularly, but you need to store everything internally, and then remember this type gets a conversion applied, whereas the others are exact counters. It's not a big deal. It's just annoying.
Send email on this just as a.
Yeah,
I'm undecided. This is the first time I've heard about it, so I want to give you a fair chance to defend your argument.
it's cleaner.
Well, don't just say it's cleaner.
Yeah.
That's not just because it's going to break existing stuff. I don't want to break existing stuff just because. In theory, I suppose we can say that for current commonly used quarter types, we just have to be in kilobytes to keep existing implementations. But let's say if you want annotation storage, we can say it can be bytes.
Yeah. We do annotation storage as kilobytes as well because it's a storage type. And
right. Well. Okay.
And do we want to explicitly say that all the types are in our 32-bit types, or because I think there's all 32-bit numbers at the moment in the draft?
So at the moment, 32 bits for kilobytes. This is relatively reasonable number, and we don't do anything bigger than 4 gigabytes. Well, limits for messages is 4 gigabytes, right? In IMAP.
Yeah. That's quite a lot of messages.
At the moment, again, I'm a bit ambivalent. If there is a need for this huge sizes, if you have a compelling use case, then
not really.
Okay,
Just raised it as a thing to look at, but
no.
We can always
the answer is
again.
no. Then
All right. Easy. So what's the plan in terms of getting this out, getting it published?
I think at this point, I would like more reviews. The base document is in the reasonable shape, I think, already. If there are any comments in the document, then people should comment on the comments. And
cool.
So I'm happy to do this as quickly as possible after IMAP 4F2, but I'll concentrate on IMAP 4F2 first.
Cool. So, goal of February next year, then?
If you like, yes.
March?
Well, Barry will be
July?
AG sponsoring it by that time, so which is fine.
You mean I'll be the responsible AD?
Yes. Well, you're still sort of AG sponsoring, but I know what you mean. Yes.
All right. These are the milestones we have now. I'm at 4 Rev 2, obviously, it's being delayed till December. Update charter. Have you had any time to think since this morning? We've got 1 minute left, so. maybe we will discuss our charter later.
I know it's horrible, but I almost feel it's better fit for JMAP than for Extra,
Okay.
because JMAP already relies on push notifications. It's a natural. I know we're trying to push all the little bits there, but they make more sense.
JMAP is pretty busy. Extra is going to be very quiet once these two are gone, or three.
Well, let's get these things done and then we can.
Let's do that. All right,
I
so we'll
wouldn't mind.
rediscuss our charter in April 2020. We'll just bump that a year.
Really?
I'm at for Rev 2 will be December. Quota will be, Adopt has been done. EAI with Civ, I believe nothing's been done on that at all. So
If you say it's May 2020, that's probably
for EAI,
because then I can probably volunteer to do something about it. Where
Cool.
before I didn't know who wants to work on it.
all right, and the preview draft we're expecting to send off to ASG in December as well.
Yes. Yeah, do a very quick last call on the updated syntax once we see it.
Cool.
With ISG, I can just say, look, this thing changed to that thing. Do you people care, or you just trust us that it's fine?
Yep.
And see, because nobody other than Barry have any serious comments on the document anyway. So, but I will ask for
All right.
ISG.
EAI with Civ, was Stefan Bosch responsible for that? Asks Michael. And Michael will chat to Timo about Object ID as well.
Sounds great.
Cool. All right. I will follow up with Stefan. Done. We're out of time. That's it. Thanks, everybody. If you've got any other business, I'll see you in Vancouver or on the list.
I did.
Awesome.
Very first
Who has the blue sheets?
We're full of blue sheet.
I will find them and take them off. Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Cookies.
Thank you, remote people.
Thank you.
Game over.
Yes, but half of the room haven't signed it.
All right. Sign you the sheets, you blue people. All right. Thank you. Last call for blue sheets.
Working on it, I swear.
Oh. It's another meeting, another group. All right.
No, you say you look extra.
Realistically, yeah. We put all O's in some places and not in others. Dig them up, use them later. Use them later.